Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Es una alegría tener a un público tan joven y dinámico en la casa. Bienvenidos desde la Dirección de Programación de Casa de América. Una bienvenida especial al embajador Matthew Levin y a FUEM, concretamente a Nuria del Viso, que estará hoy con nosotros y que dará luego unas palabras. Por parte de la Fundación Canadá, Joaquín Romano, que es profesor de la Universidad de Valladolid y también patrono de la Fundación. Y especialmente es un gran honor para nosotros contar con la visita de Jocelyn Joe-Strack, científica y filósofa del pueblo Yukon. Nuestra conferenciante abordará el cambio climático en el subártico canadiense y cómo el pueblo Yukon está encarando este reto de manera propia. Su propuesta va más allá de reducir las emisiones y plantea ampliar el bienestar de los individuos a través de recuperar unas vidas más plenas, mejorando los espacios comunitarios de cuidado de la tierra y reduciendo la dependencia de un consumismo exacerbado. La propuesta del pueblo Yukon y de la que vamos a aprender hoy, que nuestra ponente nos va a presentar con experiencias concretas, propone una vuelta a la armonía con la naturaleza y entre las comunidades que la habitan. Jocelyn cree que todas las enseñanzas de su pueblo y su manera de avanzar hacia una nueva prosperidad son aplicables al resto de las naciones, porque todos queremos un futuro mejor para nuestros hijos. De nuevo, buenas tardes a todos y cedo la palabra al embajador de Canadá en España, Matthew Levin. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Reyes, y muchas gracias a todos ustedes por su presencia, por acompañarnos en este evento. Profesor, querido Joaquín, muchas gracias, como siempre un placer. Y a veces nos encanta estar de nuevo aquí en Casa América, hemos hecho tantas cosas juntas, sentimos realmente socios en esa misión que tenemos en la embajada, que realmente es acercarnos a sus países y llevar a España diferentes dimensiones de lo que es la realidad, la vida en Canadá, y compartir, aprender de ustedes, ofrecer experiencias nuestras. Y realmente nos encanta que ustedes hayan podido estar aquí, porque para nosotros esto realmente es algo muy especial, porque entre los diferentes aspectos de lo que es la realidad canadiense, pues esa realidad y visión de lo que llamamos las primeras naciones, los pueblos indígenas, es realmente muy especial. Y Jocelyn Dakwalama es un exponente absolutamente extraordinario de esa visión. Y realmente la visión que lleva de una forma de vivir como individuos, como comunidades, como sociedades, sostenible, sana, completamente en otra perspectiva, en cómo podemos vivir y cómo podemos organizarnos. Me parece tan enriquecedor, tan interesante y tan importante, que realmente es excepcional esta oportunidad para nosotros. Jocelyn, thank you so much for being here. It's for me and I think for everyone just an absolute unique opportunity, and we really do appreciate and are grateful for your being here. Thank you. Muchas gracias a todos.
Nuria.
Buenas tardes, bienvenidas y bienvenidos. Quiero agradecer a Casa de América. Cedernos, acogernos en este espacio para celebrar esta conferencia de Jocelyn Joe-Strack, con la que vamos a poder explorar y reflexionar sobre lo que significa la calidad de vida en un contexto de crisis ecosocial como en el que estamos ahora. Y todo ello desde el punto de vista de los pueblos originarios, en este caso de la parte más septentrional de Norteamérica. Una ocasión, por tanto, especial que no es tan habitual poder escuchar aquí en España. Es además esta una cuestión, la que se va a tratar aquí, que interesa mucho a FUEN Ecosocial. Nuestro centro está es un área dentro de la Fundación FUEM dedicado a la reflexión sobre cuestiones de sostenibilidad, de calidad de la democracia y de cohesión social desde una perspectiva crítica y transdisciplinar. Hemos dejado sobre vuestras sillas un pequeño folleto y un formulario por si nos queréis dejar vuestros datos para manteneros informados de nuestras actividades. También decir que este acto no hubiera sido posible sin la presencia y los aportes de la Embajada de Canadá y de la Fundación Canadá. Por tanto, también agradecerles en la coorganización de este acto, que ha sido muy grata, y bueno, que esperamos que esta colaboración continúe en el futuro. Y no me quiero extender más. Muchas gracias y espero que os guste la conferencia.
Bien. A continuación, quiero hacer una reseña breve de la biografía de Jocelyn Joe-Strack, a la que agradecemos ese largo recorrido para estar hoy aquí, desde Yukon hasta Madrid. Ella es miembro del clan lobo de Champagne y la primera nación Aishihik, es un nombre complejo, del noroeste de Canadá. Su nombre, Dakolama, nació y actualmente vive en Whitehorse, la capital del territorio del Yukon, junto con su esposo y sus 2 niñas. Jocelyn es científica, filósofa y empresaria que se esfuerza por desarrollar las políticas del futuro al combinar las lecciones ancestrales del ayer con el conocimiento sistemático de hoy. Aplica su experiencia como microbióloga, hidróloga y analista de políticas junto con sus fundamentos culturales para explorar enfoques resistentes a desafíos que nos amenazan en el momento actual: cambio climático, frente a bienestar social, con aportes importantes en valoración económica y de políticas para ayudar a la toma de decisiones. Ella, en su función emprendedora, lleva la organización Subártico Research Strategy y actualmente, a través de esta organización, está liderando el desarrollo de un plan de uso de la tierra para el territorio tradicional de su primera nación, que contribuirá al progreso regional de la planificación territorial del conjunto del Yukon. Al mismo tiempo, está aplicando esta estrategia para su doctorado en sostenibilidad y medio ambiente en la Universidad de Saskatchewan. En síntesis, busca con su trabajo potenciar el reconocimiento de las formas de conocimiento integral de las primeras naciones para contribuir a la evolución de las sociedades hacia una vida buena y salvaguardar la prosperidad para las generaciones futuras. La conferencia lleva por título Vida buena en el contexto de la crisis ecosocial, una mirada desde el subártico canadiense. Parte del término vida buena, aparentemente difuso y superficial, sin embargo cargado de significados concretos y profundos. Es un término vinculado al término de bienestar y de alguna manera trata de responder a ese uso o abuso del bienestar por una cierta enfoque económico, la economía del bienestar, que prácticamente lo ha relegado al uso de expertos, de profesionales, de autoridades públicas, que en cierta medida han eludido una participación pública y se ha limitado al contexto del productivismo, el consumismo, en definitiva, a lo que podemos calificar los ladrones de tiempo y de afectos en las sociedades actuales y que son la base de esa crisis ecosocial que de alguna manera tratamos en esta sesión de reconocer y ver alternativas para salir de ella. La buena vida o la vida buena abre la oportunidad al conocimiento integral que ejemplarizan otras culturas y otras miradas como la ofrecida por las primeras naciones que habitan el subártico canadiense, con procesos de abajo hacia arriba, esencialmente ecofeministas y guardianas de una memoria histórica sobre la razón perdida de la buena vida, una vida de inspiración contemplativa y virtuosa, en ese sentido de virtud que ya señalaba Aristóteles, para el que es una disposición adquirida de la voluntad consistente en un justo medio relativo a nosotros, el cual está determinado por la regulación cierta y el determinismo del hombre prudente. Y como moderador quiero ser moderado y pasar sin más, dar con nuestro agradecimiento la palabra a Jocelyn Joe-Strack. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. I'll see. I prefer to stand, but if the microphone doesn't allow it, I'll be okay. You can hear me? Great. So, buenas noches. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm beyond delighted. It's a wonderful thing to be invited to come and share my culture and my people's experience with a place so beautiful and in a room so amazing here in Madrid. I've had a really good day so far, actually. It's been very busy, and I've met nothing but hospitality and warm smiles from the people that I've met, so I'm very thankful to be here and to continue. As I was introduced, my name is Jocelyn Joe-Strack, Dakalama. Dakalama is my traditional name. It means white mother. It's a very old name. And our names are passed traditionally through our clan system, and we are a matrilineal society. So my name is from the wolf people of my people, and it was my great-great-grandmother's name. And so it's quite the honor to be given that name today. And we don't really know what white means. It could have just been the color, and it was obviously given before the coming of white people. But I try and wear it proudly and represent my people as best I can. In sharing a message such as our lessons for how to live in harmony with Earth, how to think about climate change, I do very much reflect on Kure Danke, long ago people's way. Dan is our word for people. Ke is pathway. It's like a foot trail, really. And Kure is long ago. I come here representing my consulting, subarctic research and strategy, but I also come with great support from the Gordon Foundation, who operate a Young Leaders program in the North, and I was fortunate enough to be one of their inaugural fellows back in 2010, and they continue their support of me today, so I've been very happy to continue to be a part of that organization. I'm also a PhD student with the University of Saskatchewan, and I'm using the land plan, as was shared, to develop a PhD. And then I was awarded the Benny Scholarship, too. So I start with this trail marker. Originally, when the people walked through the trail, they would take little saplings and bend them over. And you see this little sapling grew into a great tree. And we still see these along the pathways that we walk along. In some areas, it's a foot deep into the ground. We walk along a trail that my ancestors immemorially traveled. It's amazing to think of their footsteps and how far back they go. And today, and as always, we share those trails too with the moose, with the bears. We lived in a place of harmony with Earth and with the animals. We were on the same plane as them. And so it's just a really amazing thing to think about where we are today and how we've come away from that understanding, but yet we still remember. A lot of the work that I do really focuses on moving forward based on the lessons of yesterday and the strengths of today. I try and be very optimistic and happy and positive in the messages that I share. There's so much to make us stressed out and anxious today that I don't wish to be someone to bring more of that news. And instead, I hope to inspire you with a bit of care and maybe perhaps a bit of enlightenment and new direction in how you view your day-to-day life. So I'm feeling really inspired and like I'd like to just start with a bit of a song for you. And this song doesn't require a drum. It's a song of thanks. And it just goes like this. When we sing songs, sometimes we hold our hands out like this. And one thing I really like about my culture is when we're giving thanks or something, we sort of open ourselves up, which is a bit of a difference, right? From like putting yourself down in reverence. We always try and be as open as we can. Ah-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha. Ah-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-ha-ha-kanzanu shothan, ha-kanzanu shothan, data-yata nanje. Ah-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-ha. Shonithan, shonithan, data-yata nanje. Shonithan, shonithan, data-yata nanje. Ah-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-hee-ya, ha-ha. Gracias. It's a very simple song. It just says, thank you for this day, great power in the sky. I am so happy, thank you. And that's all. Our songs are really simple. I'm from a beautiful place. Oh, I forgot. So I have to scroll. And you know how everybody has a scroll where they go up or they go down? This one is like opposite from my intuition. So bear with me. This is my home, Whitehurst, Yukon. We sit under Kwanlin Dal, which means water running through the canyon. There's a large canyon. So in our language, it's kind of like Canyon Mountain, but today we call it Gray Mountain because without the snow, it looks gray. I'm from, you see, this is the Yukon territory. From the northwest of Canada. We are neighbors to Alaska. We are above the 60th latitude. And we're very much a subarctic climate. We have large mountains and the largest non-polar ice fields in the world, the glaciers. My people are an inland people. We were nomadic. We traveled throughout the land following the animals, and we had caches everywhere. We spent all of our energy traveling around to gather food and leave food and store food for the winter. And we actually didn't have a lot of time for art. Everything that we did, we wore, or we had to be able to carry with us. And that's a big difference from some of the cultures from the ocean. Especially you think of like the Tlingit cultures or the Vancouver Northwestern cultures where they have great art. And they had big long houses because they had the plentifulness of the sea. And it allowed them the luxury to create. I look at like this room And it just really speaks to a time of great inspiration and prosperity to allow such a time to just create all of this beauty, putting such beauty into buildings. You know, and today we kind of just throw the buildings up as fast as we can for like the best buck that we can. You know, it speaks to a different era. This is a beautiful room. The environment that I'm from, oh, see, I'm trying to click. Okay. The environment that I'm from has always changed. 100 years ago, my village was underneath a great lake. And then it was dammed by a glacier. And that glacier broke and the water flooded down. And now it's just a river there. But you can see in the mountains, like the striations from where that lake used to be. In our stories, the glaciers were ever moving. They used to have stories of medicine men and power. We had medicine shaman, powerful men, that he could move the glacier. Well, there's one story where there was a giant. There's giants in our stories. And he sat in front of this glacier and he made it flood the whole line back because the people were disrespectful to him. My people remember the Ice Age. This is Asuya, smart beaver man, and he's a real symbol to my people. He traveled up and down the great Yukon River, which I think is the second or third longest river around like the Nile and the Amazon. There's the Yukon River as well. And it travels right across Alaska, and we are at the headwaters of it where I am from. Asuya, he traveled up the river, and he killed or made all of the giant animals small. So you can see this is the short-faced bear, and the little bear is like the grizzly bear today. Giant, giant bears. There was giant groundhogs and the mammoths, and they're all in the stories of my people. So Asuya, he went around and he said, you're going to be small and you're not going to eat people anymore. And he gave them, he'd say, here ga, gee, here's grouse, here's rabbit, you eat those instead. Stop eating people. And so he clubbed them, and I'm sorry that this picture of the club is, because it's kind of a neat club, but that's, you know, our memory and how long it lasts and how long we've been in part of this land. Even in my lifetime as a child, you know, it rarely rained where I come from. We used to go run outside like naked as kids in the rain because it was such a rare occasion. And certainly I can assure you that that no longer happens. Part of what I'm saying is that a part of my culture is to live in a dynamic environment that has always been very powerful and ever evolving and changing. And we lived in harmony with great resilience in that environment. The thing that has changed, really, is the fact that we've adopted this civilization that assumes that Earth is still, that Earth is stagnant, by creating cement, by creating roads. The Earth is ever powerful. And we understood that. Today, though, as far as we've moved away from harmony with Earth, you know, we can still call, I hope, on some of that resilience of understanding, and especially as things become more torrent due to our action of forgetting what it is to live in harmony with Earth. In telling you this great story about everlasting change, I'm not saying that how we live in Earth today isn't contributing to climate change. In fact, I'm saying that it's the fact that we've forgotten how to live in an ever-changing Earth that is the threat. And assuming that it's reacting back with a hardship. You know, Earth is reacting to the fact that we've forgotten how to be a part of it. Oh, crap, I did it again. Okay. So I believe that the world is relying and thinking hard. I keep reading things about our Indigenous people. And the fact that the indigenous approach to living with the land is to live with it as a whole. 85% of the world's biodiversity lies within indigenous held land. And this map is a representation of the sort of solidarity of indigenous people where there's First Nations jurisdiction in the world. And you can see that it's fairly extensive. And in fact, I even think that this map is a little bit misleading. You can see up in my corner, it says that we hold around 21 to 40% of the jurisdiction. We have very progressive agreements where I live that I will talk about a little bit more. What our agreements have provided us is, yes, 21 to 40% of the control over the surface and the subsurface of our traditional territory. But then our agreements also demand full partnership and collaboration with the Yukon government and the Canadian government in the management of the resources on 100% of our land. Consultation is something that is normalized where I live. It's not something that we fight for anymore, which is different in the other areas of the earth. Indigenous people still fight a challenging fight. And I'm very fortunate to be from where I am, where we're at a place where we essentially lead. We lead even the Yukon governments. They turn to us. The people look to us for the way forward now. And that's just kind of the role that we've taken on and accept. And it's different from the other places in the world. The indigenous approach to the land is to take care of it as a whole. So instead of monitoring these siloed variables, we monitor how much fossil fuel emissions we have. We monitor how many fish there are in the lake. And we use these variables to make decisions about whether or not to dam that lake or to fish it more. Our approach, again, is to take care of the land as a whole. Instead of making assumptions based on these just limited environmental factors, we strive to keep the land intact, and then you know the fish are good. You know the ants are good. You know the algae is good because the land is healthy. We're circular. So I do think, the climate is being exacerbated by fossil fuel use. It's leading to catastrophic events. But I believe that along with just concentrating on emission targets, we put great effort into shifting our lifestyles away from actions that directly or indirectly inflict harm on Earth. And my offer is that this can be achieved by focusing on human wellness, on people. We put so much energy into focusing on machine or industry or systems or the atmosphere, but I really believe that it's just looking at yourself and your soul, and allowing people to live fuller, healthier lives that are grounded in integrity and allows us to have fulfillment in life and doing it together. I believe that if we do this, we can work towards strong communities that are committed to each other and our shared earth, and we'd reduce our dependency on consumerism. And that's one of the greatest drivers of our harm to Earth. So climate change is an important driver. It's something that has the attention of the world to want change and want more. But I like to think of it as just harming Earth. The Earth needs to be healthy from the sky to the core, the whole planet. And that can only happen if we commit to a return to harmony with Earth and with our beings as humanity. And I think we can take a lot in thinking about that in the Indigenous way. So as I said, our greatest vulnerability today is our adoption of modern civilization. And I think I already talked a little bit about this slide, but just thinking about cement and all of the security and the convenience and dependency our society puts into a creation that earth can crack, water can erode, wind can change, like earth is just so powerful. And we spend so much time trying to control it, trying to mold it to our will and our ambitions. Whereas my people, our will and ambition was always just to live in harmony with earth and to ensure we were great stewards of it. When people came and visited from afar, you would want to make sure that they had animals to hunt. Like that was being a host. We were caretakers of our regions, and you wanted to make sure that the land was healthy. We used to rotate the grounds and we'd let it rest. Like there's a way in the language to say that I wish I could share with you, but I'm a scholar of my language. I'm slowly learning. But it was this understanding that, we got to let that lake rest for a bit, like letting it fallow. And now we don't do that. We overly use the areas that are accessible by the roads, the places that we can reach through cars, in the cities. The area entirely around here is just, depleted. So we lived in harmony with earth. We have stories, many, many stories that talk about how to do this. This story is called Boy Who Stayed with Fish. And what happens here is this boy, his mom keeps giving him dried fish to eat before bed. He said, "Oh, mama, dimbara, I'm hungry." And she said, "Here, hlugan, dry fish." And he'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to eat that fish. It's all moldy." And sometimes dry meat does go moldy, but you just sort of like wipe it off and then it's fine. But if you didn't know that, you'd just be disgusted, I guess. So he'd just throw that dry fish away. Hlugan, hlu is fish, gan is dry. And so this went on for a while. And then one day they're out by a lake and he starts chasing a seagull. He says, "I'm going to get that seagull." And then he walks out into the water after the seagull and he drowns to his parents. He doesn't actually drown though. The fish come and take him. They say, "You come live with us for a while." But he doesn't know they're fish because in our way, we were on a complete even plane with the animals. There was no us and them. We were just all one together. So even in the stories, like I think in this artistic vision, it's showing that they are obviously fish, but in his eyes, they're people just the same. And that's the way all of our stories were. We used to marry the animals. We had children with them. We spent long periods of time living with them. So he's with these fish for 2 years. And at first they're like, "Oh, just come with us, just come with us." But he doesn't realize. And then he's like, "Oh, fish eggs. I'm going to eat some of those." And then they look at him. They're like, "Ooh, moldy head. What you eating our poop for?" Like, it's pretty funny. But see, moldy head eats people poop. And so he stays with them for 2 years. And he learns the way of fish. He learns to be a fish just as a normal way of life, living with a different group of people, living in a different culture. And then one day they're going back to see grandma, which just means going back to their home stream to spawn. They used to call it the fish are going to see their grandma, because that's where they were born. And all of a sudden he looks up and he sees his mom. His mom's there fishing. And so he keeps swimming around her, and she says to her husband, she's like, "Look at this fish, he won't go." And he's like, "Oh, well, it must want you to take him." So she fishes him out. And then she's going and she starts to cut him, and she cuts by his neck. And there's a copper necklace, her boy's copper necklace, that she recognizes right away. And she's like, "Look at this, this is our boy." Maybe. They fast for 8 days, and they call in a powerful medicine man who chants and who just honors him. And then all of a sudden that boy turns back in to their son. Oh, and they're elated. And he comes with all of the lessons of the fish that he shares with us that we still listen to today. And it's very simple things, like you never put a fish in a stream with its head down. You always put its head up towards grandma, because that's where it's going. If you put it down, then you're just disrespecting the fish. You would never hold a bucket of water in one hand and a fish in another, because it's like you're waving its home right in front of it that you've taken. And you always put the fish bones, the remains of the fish, back to the water, back home. And we have lots of stories like this that just speak to the lessons that our ancestors learned when they spent time with the animals, of how to be respectful, how to live holy. Maybe I'll tell you quickly too about hunting. Something that I've been working on in the land plan is creating a 200-year vision of what it would be like for our generations to come to live, to get back to this harmony. Like, what do you mean? How do you actually do that, right? And so there's some really simple things from the lessons of our people. And one of them is originally when the hunters went out, they would never say they went hunting. They just say, I'm going to take a look around. Going to take a look around. Like, you'd never be so bold to say that you were actually going to be successful in your hunt. And so when you went out hunting as well, you would never take an animal that didn't offer itself to you. So there's numerous stories of them being out and like, oh, that bull's running away, like, oh, that one's too far. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a bull stands up and just stands broadside and waits you to take it. And that was the only animal that the hunters ever took. They would never take an animal otherwise. And so one of our recommendations in a 200-year land plan is to get back to hunting in a way where you only take the animals that offer themselves to you. And there's a lot that goes along with a recommendation like that. It means that we need to have more time to hunt in a way where you don't just run out in the weekend. And, you know, right now I call us like weekend Indians, where we go out with our ATVs and we just go hunting and we catch the first animal that we can, and we just hope that we have time to cut it up before Monday. It's this, the respect isn't there. That intrinsic level of respect and understanding of the animals and the needs of the animals isn't there. And it would be something too that we would expect all people who wish to be on our land and harvest our animals to respect. Not just my own people, but, you know, the others that come. So we'll see. Essentially, in talking about something like running on your ATV and heading out to the hills, we used to work really, really hard to get our animals and our food. Grandmas would be busy from day until night. And even like the little old elders today, they hardly never sit down. They're way more hardy than we are. We never even had chairs. And so in all of our securities and all of these dependencies that we've created, one of the greatest things that we've managed to let go of is our own capacity and ability. We trade everything for money now. We have people who can't sew, can't grow food. And that's why part of the reason why I believe that we're vulnerable, and why something like climate change, which is catastrophic and might take out our food systems, for us in that earlier picture, our road, our one and only road up to the Yukon went. The first thing to go was like toilet paper and milk from the grocery stores. But what if we were a place where we, you know, back when we used to have our food, if we had stores, if we had more ability to do things without money. So this is my, that didn't really transfer very well, did it? Anyway, that's a much nicer looking picture when it is formatted properly. This is from my master's thesis. So my undergraduate and master's degrees are in biochemistry and microbiology. And I was not a very happy scientist. I felt really frustrated in the box, and I used to move like very small amounts of liquid from like one tube to another, like endlessly. And I did that for an entire summer. And I only had about 3 different things to think about. And so I just like think about those 3 things. And then I'd think about how those three things could be different. And then eventually it got to a point where I was like, okay, I think like this is reality and I'm like somewhere over here. And then I started listening to books on tape and it saved me. I am not one for monotony. But anyway, this is what I came up with. I studied mercury in our northern environments in this lake that you see in the background, Kusua Lake. And mercury enters our environment from industrial activity in the south, and it comes to the north and it gets cold and heavy and it drops with the snow. And then it transports through the environment, and then it gets into our highly oligotrophic lakes, which means very low productivity, very clean, you can drink. And it settles down to the bottom, and then you can measure it temporally over a period of time. But what I found was the bacteria down there, they had to just cycle everything because so little came. They lived in this very limiting environment, and so they just used to share with like all of the other bacteria that were there. So it'd be like, you need a carbon? Oh, I got some of that. You want some sulfur? Okay, here's that too. Reducing and oxidizing. They just change it. So they were really resourceful, subarctic little bacteria. And another sort of interesting thing is that if you take subarctic bacteria and you put them into very, very hot climate, they will select for all of the ones that are able to survive in hot. Because in our environment, we go from like minus 40 all the way up to like plus 35 sometimes. So our bacteria can survive at like opposite ends of the scales, and that evolves up. But if you take the same sort of temperate bacteria from the Caribbean or maybe even from the Mediterranean, here from a warmer climate that's more consistent, and you put it into a cold climate, they die. They don't have that selection. They haven't evolved it. They don't have that same resilience that our subarctic bacteria have. And one of my metaphors for you is that I believe we were once all subarctic, resilient, capable, dynamic bacteria. And now today, we've gotten cushy in our convenience, and we live in this society where we have expectations of comforts, of convenience in our consumerism, that we've lost our ability for dynamic, and we're just like the temperate bacteria. So if it gets cold, if there's drastic change, we have no tools. And I think that's something that my people recognize. We never agreed with our adoption of modern society. And we endured great hardship in our change. So for us, I guess I'll use the word fortunate, but we were one of the last people in North America to be colonized. Our abruption, I guess, sort of happened during World War II, during the construction of the Alaska Highway. Prior to that, my father and his generation, he was born in the bush. He lived that semi-nomadic lifestyle where they traveled around and they stored food here and there, and we were trappers. So we were a part of the economy. We trapped and we traded with white people. But it wasn't until the highway that we were relocated from the bush and put into settlements, and my dad was thrown into the back of a pickup truck and driven to residential school. And there he wasn't allowed to speak his language, eat his food, sit with his brothers or sisters, or see his parents. And he was 5 years old. That event was a great riff, obviously, in my society and my community for my past leaders. They endured such hardship at residential school. They were hungry, and they were forced off a diet that was primarily meat. We didn't have a lot of vegetables. We ate meat and fruit and fish, primarily. And just one at a time, too. So it would be like gopher season, so you'd just eat gopher for like a month. And then they would have moose, and they would just eat moose and maybe some fish. And then you'd have berries, but it was not an overly varied diet. And then at school, they were just given bread a lot of the time and broth. They were hungry. The lasting impacts of this trauma have endured. And essentially what happened to us is we were a culture of strength and confidence and wellness in our relationship and harmony with Earth. And then we became a culture of trauma. And then our past leaders in the 1973 decided that it was time for us, that we did not agree with what was happening in our oppression. So in 1973, these were my heroes, my leaders of yesterday, went to Ottawa with a message of together today for our children tomorrow. They literally wrote a book, and I should have brought it. I have it in my hotel room, to be honest, and because I carry it with me, because when I am searching for direction or an understanding of what it is I'm working towards, I read that document. And it's written with words and emotion. It's not a policy document. It's a statement of our grievance and our history and our vision for tomorrow. And their message was, we are here in Ottawa together today for our children tomorrow. Everything we've always done is always for the next generations. They didn't act for now. Like my daddy, who's right there, Willie Joe, my yatta, and I named my baby, her name is Mai, Eleanor Mai, and Mai means dull sheep. And dull, I'll have you know too, is mountain in southern Shoshone. So my dad was Mayata, father of sheep, and then my little baby now is Eleanor Mai, my little lamb. They went to Ottawa, though, with a powerful message. And to Jean Chrétien, to Pierre Trudeau. They went to Justin Trudeau's dad and brought this document. And it started a 20-year negotiation that ended in our agreements that we fought for and won in 1993. And as I said, what our agreements provided us with was the ability to make our own laws for our land and our people. For example, we could implement a water law to say, if you mine on our land, you must meet within these parameters. We can create a justice law. So if our youth are struggling, we don't need to send them to jail and punish them. We can bring them home and help them heal and be well, because that was our way. We didn't punish like that. We have agreements that are sought after world round. And I believe that the First Nations people of the world are all on some point of this path of strength, abuse, healing, self-determination, and then vision and leadership. And I just happen to be from one of the nations who's at the forefront of that journey. But I do believe that the Indigenous people of the world are right behind us. There's great hope and aspiration, I believe, for the future. When you think about things like that, it's as if Earth's Indigenous people are the leaders in resilience and returning to living well. And one of the ways that I have to offer for you, that I am exploring by coming here, and I don't pretend to have answers or magic solutions, but I do hope to have a bit of insight, and I hope to provoke some thought and belief in you. The things that I feel like my community is strongly working towards is to rebalance our sense of integrity, our need for individual and community fulfillment, and then the fact that we work best when we are one together. We won our agreements in the Yukon because we came together as a people, as a whole, Yukon-wide. Whenever we've needed to fight something that was really important to us, we did it best when we were together. And now we've sort of implemented each our little individual agreements, and sometimes I think we struggle. It's one of the negative outcomes. Or I shouldn't say negative, but our agreements aren't perfect. They're experimental. Even like our ability as humanity working towards deciding how to move forward with strength in living better and doing better by Earth is like experimental. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. But I'll just dive into these a little bit deeper for you. One of the first things I think that we need is a little bit of an inward look. And I'm still wondering if integrity is the right word here, because I feel like sometimes people might take it as you don't have integrity, and that's not my intent at all. It's more just that I believe that if one is well, if one has good grounding in their consciousness and their being, you make better choices and you can be whole. And a lot of what my people are working towards after our culture of abuse and trauma is wellness. And the best way for us to do that is by reconnecting with the land and with our language and culture. So even for myself, this is my baby, Lila Jane. She's 3 now. Those are cranberries in her hand. We're cranberry picking in the fall. But I just like this picture. But the wellness is something that we've put all of our energy into. When we implement our agreements, we're not running out to change all the laws about water, to be honest. We're putting all of our energy into ensuring that our people are well and healthy. And even for myself, I've had to overcome my own personal aspects of trauma. I experienced death and abandonment. When I was 13, I lost my dad, and when I was 26, I lost my mom, both to cancer. And I don't tell you that in an effort to, make you feel sorry for me or pity. I don't like that. But I tell you because I put in a lot of effort after that to do my own sense of healing. I spent time in Whitehorse's underground for a number of years. And it took me a lot of my own inward journey to come out of it. And a lot of it was in my reconnection with my language and my land. So for example, as I was learning the language, I realized that we don't objectify. So when we speak to the animals in the trees, we speak to them as alive. So we would say, Danche Chunai, oh, you're so beautiful up there. Hello, water watcher, eagle. And we'd say, oh, Chusai, your song is so beautiful. Water crier, loon. We'd even to the fire, we'd be like, oh, Kwan Dimbara, fire, are you hungry? Let me feed you. Everything was alive. The only thing that was objectified was the things that we made, so like a knife. And as I was going through my own sort of healing journey, I was walking in the forest behind my house through the trees, and I've always found great solace and comfort in the forest. Even when I was down south, we call it, in the big city doing school, I actively sought the forest for my own just well-being. I would really start to miss it. And one day I was out walking as I'd been learning, and had been learning about how our ancestors walked through the trees, and the trees are as old as our ancestors, and so they hold their spirit. And all of a sudden I just got so upset with the English language for barring me, blinding me to my ancestors and all of that support I could have had during my hardship that I couldn't even know because I couldn't speak. It was a real moment for me. And all of a sudden I just looked at the forest in such a different way. I just realized that there was so much more than what my current society and upbringing allowed me to see. And it was really powerful for me. My girlfriend, she's like, you had an awakening. I was like, oh, is that what that's called? And, I still take it today. And my little girls, my 3-year-old, she believes in fairies and that the trees and the animals are real and can talk to her. And my ancestors just never stopped believing that. We teach the children to stop believing that because that's what society deems. But that's not what my ancestors believed or lived. And it's not to say, like, to talk about different, like, religions, but just believing that, the power of belief and seeing. And the fact that today we really don't allow ourselves as much of that. We bar ourselves from a lot. The other thing that I pick on a little bit here is numbers. In talking about securities. Our entire civilization is founded on numbers. And I was curious when I was coming forward to Europe to share with you some of these ideas about what the reactions to numbers, the numbers pick would be. I just believe the bottom line is that our dependency on making decisions based on numbers allows us to make decisions that intrinsically or inherently are wrong. So this example is, this is where my grandmother grew up, Champagne and Aishihik. And in 1974-5, they put in a hydro facility here. And I don't discount the greatness of the fact that I can turn on my heat or my lights or have hot water. But just the fact that in damming the lake, in this little graph here, the bars are the natural flow of water, and the lines are where the water level is going to be, as they studied this, post-hydro facility. So here, in the summer, when the water is supposed to be high, it's low. And then in the winter, when the water is supposed to be low, it's now high. And that's how it is now today. So you see that this is a picture in the spring. This is the picture at the end of summer and the fall. So when the water should be the highest. And you can see that it's not high anymore. And to our people now today, we're having a great disagreement with the energy company about whether or not the lake is healthy. So the numbers show that the fish are healthy, the lake has a acceptable level of productivity. But to our people, the lake is not healthy. Because the lake is our responsibility. The lake is a part of our home. So it's kind of interesting when you start talking to my people now, they have these great visions of like renewable energy and feeling like we can do it without them. There's just such determination there. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know right now how to overcome the fact that I still want to turn on my lights, but I also want my lake to be healthy. But I think as humanity, we're working towards, addressing some of these questions. And some of the things that I like to offer is that it's even just acknowledging some of these things and articulating them and putting words to them that helps us to move forward. Because right now it seems like we're all just kind of lost in a clutter of all of these things that we know are wrong, yet we still act on them. So I don't know if integrity is the right word still, but that's essentially what I'm getting at. Acting in conscious knowledge of what is right and wrong. The other thing I think humanity could use a little bit more of is fulfillment. In our dependency on consumerism, which in turn greatly drives our harm to Earth, in our easy plastics and our easy heat too. I'm from a cold place, so I talk about heat. But it's too easy, I guess. Whereas originally my ancestors, like I said, they were up, they worked all day, they beat it. This beautiful shawl took hours by a professional beater. This is her livelihood. Kaylin Baker. She, if you follow my Twitter, her stuff is on there. She's a real artist. But they were really happy. I always say, like, my people, we have smile wrinkles because there's so much humor and happiness in what we do, and we are our most productive when we're working together. So you see, like, all generations there. And I think as humanity, we're missing a little bit of that. There's this great, great sense of unhappiness. There's anxiety, depression, suicide, this feeling of wanting to be with your family when you have to be at work. And I'm not sure that it's serving us. And so I like the word prosperity. What can prosperity mean for a generation that lives in harmony with Earth? So this is my girl again. She's now 2 in this picture. She sat watching Atsua, which is grandma. Sua means little birdie. And then we say Atsua, which means little birdie. And that's what we call our grandmas. So, hey, little birdie. It's very sweet. Grandpa, we say Atsia, which is a grizzly bear. She sat 2 nights in a row for 2 hours each time just watching grandmas sew. That's all she did. I couldn't believe it. Busy little 2-year-old. And look how happy she is. I feel like if my daughters, if I can leave them a world where they can harvest some moose and fish and just like use the entire animal with all of the language, that would be prosperity for me. And they could have a full freezer and great amounts of food, healthy food. I haven't talked too much about food here. Your guys' food here is lovely, by the way. And even when I walk into the grocery stores, I can see, I saw leeks and onions that were just so full and healthy. Whereas where I'm from, we truck everything up, and by the time the leeks get to us, they're all shriveled and just kind of have lost everything. I'd like to get to a point where I think food is a really good starting point, actually, for humanity to try and think about living more consciously. And just prosperity. What is prosperity? Right now, prosperity is making lots of money. But is that happiness? Is that, and I feel too, we have all of these sayings. Money doesn't buy happiness. It takes a village to raise a child. What are some of the other ones? There's all of these things that we say in our societies, but we don't live by. We live by making money, running around, and being busy. So, and you know what? The next generation is not satisfied with that. So, this is Berlin last week. I'm really impressed by what's happening with the youth here in Europe. I'm really interested. I've been following it. Because in my culture, we forever uphold our youth. It's just a part of who we are. So I always say, I am a leader who was raised by leaders. You know, my parents, they made sure that I'm standing here with everything they taught me and told me. And even my leaders today, I was sent here with so much support from my community that I'm really grateful for to be a part of. And they all just support me as a young, even though I'm not as young as these guys, but, I'm not an elder. And so the youth, here's our graduating class. The tomorrow, our future, I really think we owe it to them. I owe it to my babies, to my great-great-grandchildren. So when my leaders, they negotiated our agreements, everything that they talked about and did, they talked about the children. They talked about the generations to come. And so when I write something like a land plan, that's exactly how it's framed. It's all framed in leading a better prosperity for the generations to come. And I think that today we spend a lot of time making sure we meet the budget for fiscal. I'm sure everybody's very busy. Fiscal's coming up. And that's our priorities. 5-year planning. I don't even think many people have a 25-year plan. Our land plan is 200 years. And I think change takes generations. So there are leaders that negotiated our agreements that died before we even signed. But they fought hard. And I feel like that's sort of what I'm trying to do too. So I might not get to benefit in the prosperity that I'm envisioning, but I sure hope that my grandchildren don't have to work maybe 9 to 5 and not spend time with their family and eat bad food. I hope that I can do something to make sure that they live good lives, live well. So I believe, as I said, the youth are really ones we can listen to. I believe the Indigenous people, as I talked earlier, have much to offer in how to go about this. And I also have up here that I believe that entrepreneurs, small business, and then also progressive corporations. And I put that in there mostly to leave out government. I think we put a lot of reliance and anger towards government because they drive the systems of our society. But I'm not sure that government is the actual practical on-the-ground change maker. Grassroots organizations, in all of this, I think a lot of people are coming away with, but like, how do we ever get there? And I believe there's tons of action that's already happening to move us there. And I think individual demands and societal demands for more in life is a totally acceptable thing to aspire to. You know, life can be more than what we have it right now. And whether you're in the city or in the forest, I still think that that message endures. I've been thinking a lot, though, about being here in the cities and listening and meeting people and talking to people. I think it can be hard to relate to this message that I'm sharing of harmony with Earth. But I think one part to think about is the fact that I'm fortunate enough to be from a people that still remembers harmony with Earth. And so I'm here to just kind of give a bit of a reminder and a prod and an inspiration of what that is, what it feels like. So I believe we can create a better prosperity for our generations to come. This is my girl with her little bush broom. That's how they used to make the brooms. They used to always go with the bush browse. And I'll sing you one more song for a little bit extra touch of inspiration, I hope. And in talking about fulfillment, one thing that I used to do as a child is paint. So I painted my drum. And I really like it because it has a traditional style with the teeth and the eyes, but the painting itself is my own. I've always painted very abstractly, and my mother taught me how to paint. We used to stay up to, like, on New Year's Eve as kids and like paint together. And even when I painted this drum, I stayed up to like 4 in the morning one night and then 2 in the morning the next night to finish it. So, and I think it's worthwhile moving forward with my lessons of yesterday and my lessons of today to create my beautiful drum that I have now. on that song really quick. It's very simple. It just, ing sotan is my soul is happy. Adunana is my babies. Adzua is my love and my family. And Dakai is our country, our land. And that's it. So Gwyneth, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for listening. I'll hold you up.
Vamos a aprovechar la presencia de Jocelyn aquí para abrir un pequeño coloquio y, como ella misma decía, dejar que los jóvenes también tengáis la palabra.